Today we're looking at two wonderful homes for rent here in Fukuoka City. And today I'll be talking about the very important topic of visas. I'll also try to be answering some comments I've received in the last couple videos. So today's first house, we're starting with the cheaper one and then we'll look at the more expensive one. This house does have a nice little outer area and garage, but I had no access to that. So let's check it out. This home is a 4S LDK built in the 1990s, and the lease term is 5 years, so much longer than the average 2 years we normally see. This home is for the monthly rent of 145,000 yen, so right around 950 USD. The two houses we'll be looking at today are basically on opposite sides. This is in the Jonan-ku area, and it is walking distance to the subway station, which will take you about 6 minutes to get there, and the subway station is called Umebayashi. Here's a fun feature that you don't always see in Japanese apartments, even sometimes houses, a little wash machine. And while I show you all this stuff, let me explain visas and how, depending on which visa you have, could affect how you rent things here. So let's start with tourist visas. I get emails all the time about people on tourist visas wanting to rent an apartment or in a house, and you're just not going to be able to rent a traditional property. Basically, nowhere is going to agree to rent to you on a tourist visa because, one, you have no residency within the country, so you don't have a Japanese bank account. And two, like I mentioned before, the leases here tend to be 2-year minimum. And, it's just something you can't do on a 90-day visa. They'll also probably want you to have a Japanese phone number. And then again, not having a bank, that can create an issue. If you want to rent on a tourist visa, your best option is Airbnb. Or if you really want something closer to a, regular apartment, there are companies like Leo Palace and Sakura House, and perhaps some share houses that will allow you to rent short term. And then that brings me to another point is, those companies oftentimes don't require you to have a guarantor. But more times than not, a regular apartment will require a guarantor. Basically, someone to say that, hey, if they don't pay, I got things covered. Here we have shoji, the traditional Japanese sliding doors. Be careful if you have kids because they love to stick their fingers through them. So if you're looking to rent on a tourist visa, just know your options are very limited. And probably most realtors will tell you, sorry, there's nothing I can do. Other visas that can be troublesome are the other short-term visas, like short-term study and working holiday visas. If you're here 6 months on a student visa, it could be difficult to find a place. Again, you're going to probably be stuck with some place like Leo Palace. Or, of course, your school's dorm. And a 1-year working holiday visa, also same issue. Because leases are 2 years, people go, I don't know. If you're studying here long term, though, you have a student visa, you should have no issues. And, of course, visas like working visa, spousal visa, descendancy visa, anything that's long term, you should have pretty easy time renting somewhere. And while we're on the topic, even though I don't do sales yet, working on that, hoping to show you guys a property that's for sale sooner than later, and maybe one of y'all will buy it. But when we're talking about buying homes, it's very important to consider, again, how will you maintain your life in Japan and what visa status you will have. Buying and renting are very much different, and being on a tourist visa and buying a home is a lot different than renting on one. You can have a tourist visa and buy a home. And, if you don't live here in Japan and you purchase a home, you do have to remember that you cannot get a loan here in Japan. You have to essentially pay cash up front. So when you're ready to buy a home here, you got to make sure you have the cash ready. And owning a home here in Japan is not a pathway to residency. So you can buy a home, but it doesn't mean you can stay here. And hey, some people are okay with that. They come, they stay there 90 days and then they get one more 90-day visa. Because on a tourist visa, you can be here 180 days out of the year and purely use their property for, vacation home. So if you're not married to a Japanese national or you have a job here, some way for you to stay in the country, something you have to think about, how you're going to stay here, how you're going to maintain the home. Some people do establish businesses here in Japan and then they can get a business visa. Other things to think about besides residency and visas is like location of where you buy a home or, even when you rent, location is always important. Some areas have more natural disasters than others, just like anywhere else in the world. Actually, even while I'm doing my voiceovers, we had an earthquake. So if you're from a country that, doesn't really experience earthquakes regularly, that's something you have to mentally prepare yourself for too. But as for the visas, I think that's about all I wanted to say. Lastly, maybe also something to consider is hiring a immigration lawyer. Many cases can be very complicated and, it just helps you to do everything correct the first time, and it also gives you a peace of mind. Living abroad, moving abroad, it can be complicated and there's just so much paperwork. But yeah, if you have questions about more visa stuff, I will do my best ability answer them. This is not legal advice. So wrapping up the first house, I really like this neighborhood. It's very peaceful and quiet, and I do love this house. The design's a little funky down here. Also, this next room scared me. I opened this thinking it's just going to be a regular closet, and it's this little storage area. Even though I had the lights turned on, not every room had light bulbs. So some parts of this home was getting pretty dark, and I was basically racing the sun. And as the sun went down, I was just like, I'm kind of getting scared. I need to get out of here. I've seen the movies. But yeah, if you're living with a couple of people here, I don't think it's no problem. But if you lived alone, it could be a little creepy, Here's the bathroom. You put your wash machine and whatnot over here. Got a little vanity mirror, and unfortunately, I can't show you the bath in this place. It, for some reason, was locked, and I couldn't find if there was even a key. But from the picture I seen, it's your standard Japanese bath. And the toilet room does have a nice feature that I like. Oh, we have a urinal. How do y'all feel about having a urinal in your home? Do you want one? Is it too much of a hassle to clean? Let me know your thoughts on that. But this essentially brings us to the close of the first home, so let's get ready to take a look at the second one. This is the more expensive of the two, and it's in a very nice area. This is near Momochi Beach. So, you're in walking distance to Fukuoka Tower, the City Museum, all kinds of things. And this home does have a very exciting feature for some of y'all in the kitchen. Massive genkan, this is where we take our shoes off. This home is a 4 LDK, 198 square meter. Just like the other home, it was also built in the 1990s. As you can see as today and my other videos and future videos, homes tend to have a tatami room. When we go look at older homes, it might be all tatami rooms, but these newer ones tend to have at least one. And tatami room is kind of like a multi-purpose room. You can use it as a hangout, a place to eat, to sleep in here, and people usually tend to have family altars in their tatami room. This home is significantly more expensive than the first one we looked at, coming in at the monthly cost of 35万円. In other words, 350,000 yen a month, with a 1-month security deposit and 2 months reikin, which is key money, aka gift money. Security deposit you tend to get back if you take care of the place. However, key money, gift money is what it is. You do not see that back. So whether you're moving into a Japanese home or apartment, always expect to pay 3 to 5 or 6 times the amount of rent to actually move in. But of course, also the significant rise in price of this home versus the other one is due to location. Again, we're at Momochi. This is a really nice area of Fukuoka. You are in walking distance of, Momochi Beach, which personally is not my favorite beach to swim at. It's okay to go do all the other activities, but swimming, Also, summertime, watch out for the jellyfish. You're pretty close to the ocean, so sometimes the weather can be not great, high winds and such. So you have these lovely electronic storm guards. So now I think I'm gonna respond to some comments I've gotten. One commenter was worried about his height being over, 6 foot. And their concern was, should I find a more Western place than a, traditional Japanese place? And my answer is you should find a newer place. If you move into a home in the countryside that was built in the 1950s, the doorways are going to be so small for you. Okay, sorry, I'll get right back to that. But look, there is an oven in here. This built-in style oven is so rare to find here in Japan. I think all the places I've looked at, maybe this is the third one. So if you like baking, this place could be for you. Japanese homes and apartments tend not to come with ovens, so if you want to do baking or any of that sort of thing, you have to buy a separate one and it will live on your counter. They're portable, so whenever you move, you'll just take it with you. Anyways, back to the height thing. So if you get an older Japanese home, the doorways will be so tiny. I'm 165, and in those older homes, I fit through the doorway just perfectly. I definitely know tall people here who hit their heads plenty of times on doorways and all kinds of stuff. So, that's also something to keep in mind. I make a lot of references to America, and another commenter asked if I was, aware that other parts of the world existed. And yes, I am. But because my experience is only between Japan and the US, that's the only accurate information I can give you about. I can't compare life here in Japan to Jakarta or Great Britain or you name it. So I apologize for that, but this is the only way I can give a fair comparison. Here we have access to the outside, and this looks like to be some sort of mud room. Also, shout out to Singapore. You guys are the top viewed city of my videos. I have never been to Singapore, but I'd like to come visit, and maybe when I come there, someone can give me a tour of their apartment. Or if you're a real estate agent there, hit me up. I guess that goes for really any place. Now here we do have a very nice bathroom, lots of storage, and of course we have access to this one, whereas the other one could not get in. Also my Atarashi Gakko t-shirt. Look at this bath. I love it in here. I love the black tile. I love all this. Japanese bathrooms are wet rooms. Everything in here can get wet. I personally find cleaning super easy. Japanese bath style, you sit over here, you get clean, and then you take your bath. Japan is huge on bath culture, and onsen, which is Japanese hot springs, and sento, which are bathhouses, which I know can be kind of intimidating. You have to be naked in them, but I highly suggest, if you've never experienced them, to try it at least one time. My favorite hobby is to go to hot springs, especially now that it's winter and it's cold. Also, something interesting I've learned since posting these videos is that Australian people calculate their rent in a weekly basis. That was something completely unknown to me. In Japan, we do monthly basis, and actually we get paid just once a month too, generally. This also kind of leads me into, I often get emails or comments about how can I find a good job in Japan? And this is a very important question because you need to be able to, again, provide for yourself, right? And, other than my suggestion of having as highest level of Japanese ability as you can have, it then really depends on, what are your abilities? What skills do you have? Are they transferable to Japan? I get a lot of, I am XYZ. Does Japan need XYZ? And again, it's like, I don't know. Let's just say if they do, why will they hire you over someone who is a native speaker? So when it comes to finding work in Japan, you really have to figure out for yourself, what kind of niche can I carve out for myself? English teaching is a decent job to get your feet wet here in Japan. Many people come here teaching English to get a visa. JET program just increased their wages, and it's looking pretty decent. There's a lot of eikaiwa, which is like conversation school. I know some people are making pretty good wages, but there's a lot of folks who are also getting exploited. And again, like the ones I know who are making actual money, they all speak Japanese to a high degree. And then there's also teachers who teach at like international schools who actually have like certifications and things like that. So again, these are all the very important things to think about when you're wanting to move to Japan. Especially, if you're looking to live here long term. If you're just looking here to live, 1 year or 2 years, you can go be an English teacher. It's fine. But, you want to do long term, you have to ask yourself, can I do this for 10 years? So it's always important. Have your battle plan ready. Oh, also, I wanted to talk about contacting me. You can email me, which is the best way. And when you email me, send me, as much outline of your situation and details you can. Sometimes people send me emails like, can I ask you a question? With no other details, sometimes no name. If my spam box doesn't flag them, the odds of getting a response are pretty low because I am very busy. So if you write me a well thought out email, the odds are very high I will get back to you. Especially if you're looking to rent and hopefully sometime in the near future to buy too. I myself personally am looking to buy within, the next year or two. So that's exciting. So yeah, email is generally the best way to get a hold of me. And of course, if you have questions, general questions, you can just leave them in comments too. And I will try to answer them either directly or in, these kind of videos. And on that note, as we get ready to wrap up this video, I will answer one final question that I got. Someone wanted to know if they come to Japan on a student visa, can they work part-time work? And the answer is yes. If you have a student visa, you're allotted 28 hours a week. You do have to apply for that. Oftentimes people do it when they arrive and are given their resident card. But if you don't have the paperwork ready or you simply forget, you can do it at any other time. All it takes is a trip to the immigration office and one piece of paper. And of course, depending on where you're living, say Tokyo, your wait time is going to be a little higher, but you should be in and out in no time. Also, when you are a student, you have restrictions on the type of work you can do. Say anything in nightlife related, yeah, that's not gonna happen. But say you work at a restaurant that has a bar, that's okay, but you can't work at one directly. But yeah, those are some comments and questions I've had over the last, couple videos, so I hope you found them useful, and I'll be waiting for your other comments. So what'd you think of this home? I personally really like it. It is much more expensive, but, you have to consider location. I really loved the bathroom and, the tatami rooms that we had here. And I forgot to show it, but, there is a parking space outside. You can fit 2 cars there, so that's pretty nice. And of course, yeah, it has an oven. It is so nice, and, I miss being able to do baking so easy like I did in the States. This house is very spacious. If you had a wife and 1 child, I think it's plenty of room. Definitely in this house, there's no feelings of ghosts either. A lot less scary than the first one we looked at. I'm telling you, as the sun went down and it got darker in that house, I was getting the heebie-jeebies and I wanted to get out of there. But yeah, let me know what you thought of that house and this one. And of course, would you live here?